Hello, Scotty. Welcome to the podcast. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. All right. So, to all our viewers, Scotty Sellers is here on our podcast today. I'm so excited to have her on. She is a real estate professional and associate broker here in Northern Virginia. She's the principal of Sellers & Co. Scotty has built a top producing team recognized by esteemed publications like Washingtonian Magazine for her exceptional service. Scotty has over 90% of her business coming from repeat clients and referrals, so her dedication to her clients truly shines. Before diving into real estate, Scotty spent time as a school teacher, which helped her passion for mentoring and guiding others. So, Scotty, I'm so excited to have you on and let our viewers know more about you. So, thanks for being on.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Great. So, tell us, Scotty, a little bit about yourself and kind of how you went from teaching to real estate and kind of how that shaped to what you're doing now.
Yes. While teaching, I found myself, although I loved teaching, I loved the kids and I loved actually teaching, but I started finding myself having trouble getting out of the car once I'd parked. And, once that happens, it hits you that you're not in the right place and you need to do something about it. So I talked to several different family members, and one of them was my aunt. She always, lived in Northern Virginia and was a realtor for over 40 years. And she suggested I come join her. So I was engaged at the time. We moved from Maryland to Northern Virginia. We got married. I bought my first house and I started my new career. So it was a lot of firsts. Um,
Yeah.
but I haven't looked back, and that was, like you said, 20 years ago. And so it's been great. It's been definitely interesting, and it's not a career for everyone, but it's been a really, um, I think it's been a great fit for me.
Wonderful. And as your time as a teacher, did anything transition over into, working as a realtor, or do you feel like you've grown a lot more and learned a lot and more broad skills since becoming a realtor versus when you were a teacher?
Good question. So I actually got my degree in not only education but psychology as well as a minor. So those have been very useful tools
Yeah.
in real estate for sure. Taking a really complex process and breaking it into small chunks, and just guiding people through not only the actual strategic process but the emotional process as well.
It is definitely can be a stressful situation or emotional buying experience. I mean, it's one of the biggest purchases we all make, right?
Exactly. It's ranked up there as, one of the greatest stresses in life. So I try to be sensitive to that, and always try to keep things as simple as possible, as calm as possible. And, again, like I said, break things down into small chunks. And I like to try to anticipate what the questions are going to be before they're even asked, so that people feel comfortable and confident from start to finish.
What are some of the most common things your clients ask, say if they are nervous about a potential buy, or maybe it's out of their budget, or, are they going to be able to, afford this, or what are the most common things you see from your clients?
Yeah, as far as financially, I would say people want to know, how much is this going to cost me? Buyers want to know, sellers want to know. Obviously, there's a lot of variables in answering that question. I think people would like to know, how do I know if it's the right house for me? Questions like that are good questions. I think, how long will it take for me to find the house? How many showings on average do you have with someone before they find their home of choice? How many offers will I have to write before an offer uh, is accepted? Things like that.
Okay, great. And you mentioned, you said your aunt got you into real estate. Did you,
Yeah,
so how was working with, family and business? How did that go when you started with your aunt?
it was the absolute best. I loved it. I loved every minute of it. I worked with her for, I guess it was 14 years on her team, which is a
Wow.
really long time to be on a team. But it was my aunt, my uncle, my mom, my cousin, my sister, so it was a lot of us. And it was great. I really loved it. I loved being able to talk to my aunt every single day, and it would be, of course, about work, and then sometimes personal. And she and I are still so very close. I actually left her team to go out on my own, but no hard feelings there. And she and I are still very close. I wish I talked to her still every single day, but we still keep in touch.
And working with family, I applaud you on that. What types of things do you think you learned that helped you create your new, Sellers and Co. Real estate firm?
Yeah, great question. I learned from the absolute best. Marlene Ball is my aunt's name, and truly, I mean, she was such a, there's that term boss babe, kind of cringy
Yeah,
term, but she really was a boss babe. I mean, she was a bulldog for her, for her clients, and but sweet, and felt like everybody's aunt, So one of the biggest things she taught me, and one of the earliest things she taught me was client comes first. Every concern that they have comes first. The money will follow. Don't
sure.
have, dollar signs in your eyes. Don't try to calculate how much am I going to make off this person. No. And I don't. So I very much learned that early on, and I that's just one of the many things that I learned from her, but I thought that was a great early lesson
Kind of follow your heart versus follow the money, right?
for sure.
Okay. Well, I mean, you've done it now for, 2 decades. What's one lesson that you've learned, maybe that's helped shape your new, Sellers and Co. company? Maybe that might be different from working with family and kind of has allowed you to stand out in a crowd amongst, multiple realty companies in the area.
Well, you mentioned a stat that I'm most proud of is that really most of our business comes from repeat clientele and referrals. So when we get folks who come back to us two times, three times, I mean, I'm working with somebody right this moment, and it'll be our eighth transaction together.
Wow.
So when that happens, that just makes my heart so happy. And when people tell their friends about us or their family about us, that's just, again, it just makes us feel so good that not only do they trust us with their own transaction, but they are happy enough to rave about us and trust that we're going to take care of their loved ones or their friends. So that is something that I definitely prize. And in building my team, I think every single woman on my team feels that exact way.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, Keith, you've got a business, and I have always heard as a business owner that your hires should not be like you. They should complement you. So if you handle things one way, or if you have certain fortes, maybe they have other fortes. Funny enough, my team is pretty much built of all women who feel the exact same way as me.
Hmm.
And for the most part, we have a very similar style, which I personally love too, because if I'm unable to make it to a client meeting, or if I need somebody to take on a new client, um, I feel so good that they're gonna, I'm sending out someone who will take the utmost care of anyone I set them up with, for sure.
Absolutely. We, I feel the same with our clients too. When I do get a referral, it makes you feel warm and fuzzy inside. And we love all of our clients. I always tell, you're my favorite patient. But when you've got referrals like that, it's just different. You're able to build rapport. That trust is there. So, like your business that thrives off repeat clients and referral, what do you feel like, Scotty, is your secret that helps you create those relationships that, are able to last beyond just a single transaction or a single property?
I think I definitely am not a pushy person. I don't believe in selling houses. I
Yeah.
don't believe I'm trying to, you know, sell something to people. If they come to me and they are ready to move, I am 100% behind them, and, helpful and proactive, and searching, sort of shaking the trees and trying to find something that's a good match. Um, I consider myself a matchmaker. But I would never feel like people come back to myself and my team because of that. They know that they're never going to feel pushed. They're never going to feel like I have commission breath. It's a terrible term, but that's we all know, usually somebody comes to mind when we hear that term. So I think that is huge. I think making sure that we keep in touch with people throughout the years and just truly just check in and see how people are doing.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, gosh, you're the best at that. You're always keeping in touch with people and building community. And so, I strive to be more like you because I think that's pretty fantastic. But on a small scale, we try to one-on-one either reach out to clients regularly or have client events that keep us in touch with everybody. And it's such an intimate process. I always tell people don't hire someone that you actually don't like because you're going to be in the trenches with this person, and you not only have to respect them, and you not only have to feel like they're credible and professional and knowledgeable and going to be a good person in the driver's seat, but you actually have to like them. So yeah, I think all of that is helpful.
And I know that you do have some community involvement, so I appreciate the compliment. But Scotty, I see you out there too, so you're doing a great job in the community. I can't wait to talk about some of your posts that you have the most creative marketing. I love it.
Oh, thank
So
you.
you've done a phenomenal job with that. But I know you're one of the board of directors of DAR. Can you tell me a little bit about that and what your involvement with DAR is?
Absolutely. So I was on the board of directors. I am no longer, but I did recently serve, and that was a fantastic experience. I always like feeling involved and participating in things, but to feel, really get a broad view from the top and being on the board of directors and hearing what was going on broadly and in all these different committees, I thought that was really a fascinating experience. I think because that is, you are nominated, you have to go through this process. I think that actually was really helpful too, because I think, in my company, it's a nationwide company, and there's a referral network. And I think when the other agents, for instance, heard, oh, this woman was on the board of directors for her whole realtor association, I think that gave me a lot of credibility that my peers put me on that board and respected me enough to feel like that was, one of the few positions should be filled by me. So it was an honor, and it was really interesting. And yeah, I feel like everybody should get out there and get involved in their own, every realtor should get involved in their association, even on a committee level. But if they do strive to be more in a leadership position, that is a great thing to do.
And what do you feel like you learned while, being on the board? What did you see? What kind of, I know the trends are always changing here in Northern Virginia, but from that perspective, what are some of the things you feel like you learned since you were on the board?
That is a really good question. I think you've got the professional development committee, um, which I was on for a time. You've got the forms committee. You've got all these different committees that are sort of helping the wheels of Dulles Area Association of Realtors turn. And so truly just different tidbits from every single committee every month was really fascinating. Um, I loved to see the professional, discord. I don't know if that's the right word for it, but we didn't always agree or see eye to eye on things, and so it was really interesting to be challenged by different beliefs and different styles, and watch these professionals sit at the boardroom table and have really, you know, professional discussions and be able to make, to get work done. I thought that was really interesting.
And on that note, Scotty, because I always feel there are a lot of realtors in the area, but I think what sometimes maybe the rest of us don't realize is you guys do work together a lot. What like you mentioned earlier that within your company's nationwide, so you are working a lot with other realtors across the country. How has that been, and kind of how does that help serve your clients that are obviously here in Northern Virginia, or say they move across the country? You've got those connections that you can send them to someone that's trusted. How's that experience been?
Yeah, great question. Keith, I think you and I both are in industries that when you watch TV or movies or what have you, I mean, there's some pretty, there could be negative, uh, generalizations, I suppose, of our different careers. I always cringe when I see the realtors in TV or movies because, oh, they make us look bad, really bad. And as you mentioned, there's a lot of us. I always
Right.
say you shake a stick, you're going to hit eight of us, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but my significant other says it a lot. He's always in awe of watching it, that there is this level of collaboration and this professional, I can't remember the exact phrase, but a high tide raises all ships. We only get better by making each other better. And I think for a while there, I think real estate was, close your office door, don't let anybody hear you, don't share your materials, make sure you keep your information your information, because they might threaten to take your business if you share anything or if you share your knowledge. And it's not like that anymore. At least in my brokerage, it's very much encouraged to be collaborative. So we have 12 entrepreneurship principles at Compass, and one of them is collaborate without ego, and that's my favorite one. Um,
Nice.
and so there's a lot of, I love peer panels. If I'm such a training geek and an education geek, and I love, attending trainings. And one of my favorite formats is watching my peers talk. So if I ever see a training on the calendar and it's got, some team in New York City that's talking about whatever, so how they handle buyer consultations, for instance, I make sure I'm on there. And I just love hearing how different people handle different things. So I feel like, in any career, you can never stop learning. And, as a former teacher and as a daughter of a teacher, I prize that. And I think that's really important, no matter who you are. Um, I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you made that connection, like the parallel between our two industries, because I never thought about that before. But you're absolutely right, because in chiropractic, it was the same. Like chiropractors were kind of looked down upon. They had like a negative thing, or just, and where now I realize that chiropractic is definitely more now in the mainstream media, and I feel like it's more accepted versus even 10, 20 years ago. I mean, today we get so many more referrals from medical doctors that 10, 20 years ago we would never get.
Awesome.
So I didn't even think of that until you mentioned it. Like that's a perfect parallel with kind of realtors as well. And I couldn't agree more that, everyone's different. Every realtor is different. Every chiropractor is different. Every business is different. Even if you're in the same industry, I only think it helps to, collaborate with others. And as I know you are, Scotty, I feel like you give top-notch service, and that's what I'm always telling my staff too. Is like we can collaborate with other chiropractors, just like realtors collaborate with other realtors, because we're all a little bit different. We all specialize in something a little bit different, or we always, um, so with that kind of, Scotty, what do you feel like sets you apart from other realtors? And because I know that um, you've been doing this a long time, what's the key that you feel like you are consistently giving that top-notch level service to your clients?
Good question. So I'll start with the fact that I have my associate broker's license. So only 18% of realtors or salespeople have that license. So it's an elevated level of licensure. So I think that's important because you have to have a certain level of production. You have to have a certain number of years experience to be able to even sign up to try to get that license. So that's important. And I think as far as our value proposition, we are. I have another educator on my team as well. She's a former educator, and we feel like that. So we feel like the education piece is probably the utmost important thing. A lot of realtors start off by getting a call, for instance, from a buyer who says, "Hey, I'd like to see this property." Realtor meets them at said property. They may or not move, may or may not move forward with that property, but then they wait until they're going to go see the next property. So we feel like the starting point should be an actual buyer consultation, for instance. And if you're working with a realtor that doesn't sit you down and have a buyer consultation each and every time, that is going through the process, talking about your timing and your goals and what the big thing is the why. I always like to hear what the why is. Why are you interested in moving? Okay, but why, why now? And why are you looking for a property that has that number of bedrooms? Or why are you only looking in this city? Just to kind of peel back the layers and find out if there's maybe something that they haven't considered that that I can keep in the back of my mind. So I would say the sitting down and really counseling people, and that's just one example. I mean, that's just the very beginning is the consultation. And then every point along the way, there should be little touch points, little milestones. So no one's out there worrying and wondering, am I doing everything right? Am I covering everything? And I always say to my clients, I mean, you're going to stroke the check, you're going to sign the papers, but I want to try to cover everything else that I possibly can for you. So as far as going through all the paperwork, making sure everybody's happy with every single field that's filled in, making sure they understand what they're committing to when they sign this contract, legally binding contract, so just taking every piece of the puzzle very seriously and making sure that our clients, whether they're buyers or sellers, understand, that every step to the process.
And going back to your broker's license, what does that enable you to do for your clients? And why do you feel like only 18% of realtors have that? If that's going to give you an edge up and that's going to be able to give you more service to your clients, why do you feel like not all realtors do that?
Really don't know why more people don't do it. I think maybe the time commitment. It was quite a long time commitment, and
Uh-huh.
we were in class quite a bit. So perhaps that.
Okay.
There's four quadrants to the class, and I hope I don't forget any right this second, but appraisal was one, finance, business management, and it was a while ago, sorry. I can't remember the fourth,
It's
but
okay. It's you passed the test. You're good. You're
thank
good.
you. All right, well, I got a 75. But yeah, I think that really diving into all of those different quadrants of the class were so important. On top of just the time commitment of taking the class and then taking the test to try to get your license, you actually have more continuing ed every year over and above what I have to do for my salesperson's license. So maybe that scares some people away, but I just find that people, consumers appreciate that level of knowledge and experience. I think it shows where your priorities lie. I think it shows them that you are serious, you're in
Yeah,
this for the long haul. There are so many of us realtors out there that are a lot of people, fall off when the market, you know, flips and things are a little slower. There so it's not a quick buck kind of thing. You don't go getting your associate broker's license if you're just sort of trying this out and dipping your toe in the water.
got it. So definitely for more established people who are or realtors that are more serious and are not just trying it out for a new career type of thing.
Exactly.
Well, since you brought up, kind of the market slowing down, how have you been able to navigate that? What kind of things? I mean, I know every buyer is different, but we know that the market was very hot there for a long time and it has slowed down a little bit. What types of, trends are you seeing not only within the market, but now with buyers as well? Like how is that changing?
Yeah, great question. So when rates shot up last year, and people couldn't believe that they were exceeding double of what they already had for their current interest rate on their current home. So it did stop a lot of consumers from moving. The rates are definitely back down, not quite that low,
Yeah,
but the rates are down a little bit into the lower sixes at this very moment. It could change tomorrow. So I think more people feel more comfortable moving forward. There are always going to be people moving in this area, but and on top of the rates changing things, there's been the NAR settlement. So we're sort of trying to navigate. The realtors are navigating this sort of new world of the post NAR settlement. We've got changes in paperwork, changes in how compensation is no longer listed on the MLS. So it's definitely been a learning curve for all of us. And I say been in past tense. We're going through it right this moment. So we're sort of learning how that goes. But just to circle back to that buyer consultation, that's one major point of education and making sure that consumers understand how that all works now as well.
Yeah, and I just heard about it too, Scotty. I think Jasmine told me a couple days ago, her friend. Can you explain more about that? Like, what is it? The closing costs or the commission that you get is now being paid directly to you, or how is it working? Can you expand
It,
on that?
there's a lot of misinformation out there. So
Yeah.
generally, things might be exactly how they were before. The difference is, so backing up a little bit, pre NAR settlement, right there on the listing agreement, it said that commission was negotiable. Not sure if agents didn't point that out, not sure if sellers perhaps didn't read that closely, but now it's bolded and bigger and repeated and that sort of thing. So a seller is able to make an option from three different decisions when they're listing their property. One is offer a specified compensation to the buyer agent in addition to their compensation they're paying their listing agent. Okay, so that's option one. And that's sort
Okay.
of the traditional thing that everybody's pretty much used to.
Is that like 3% on the buyer side, 3% on the seller side?
Well, another point of the NAR settlement was no price fixing. So when I say negotiable, I mean negotiable. So there is
Wow.
no set fee whatsoever. A seller could pay 3%. A seller could pay 2%. A seller could say $10,000. I mean, whatever it is, I'm just giving you just a couple, but the world is your oyster as a seller, whatever you decide to do as a seller.
Huh.
So, option two would be, look, I'm negotiable. I'm willing to offer a buy, or I'm willing to pay a buyer agent a fee, but you give me what you propose. The buyer, you give me what you propose for me to pay your realtor, and I'll take it into consideration and I'll either sign your offer and agree to it or I'll counter you on it.
So this is you, Scott. This is you as the realtor are negotiating, or the client you're representing is negotiating this.
The client we're representing has all the power in their
Wow.
decision. So yeah, and I'll talk about kind of the pros and cons of each.
Yeah.
The third option is I'm not offering any compensation to the buyer agent, and the buyer can pay their own agent. And then we can talk about, if you want, how that could look. But there's pros and cons. There truly are pros and cons. I mean, let's take off the listing agent hat and put on the buyer agent hat. As a buy, I just mentioned that the compensation is now a part of an offer. It was never like that before. That
Okay.
just changed in the second half of this year. So the way it was before was compensation was always offered on the MLS, and whatever it says on the MLS is how it stands for settlement.
Okay.
So
Okay.
a buyer may never know what their buyer's agent is getting paid. Now, at the very first, well, I shouldn't say the very first meeting, but before touring a home, a buyer is supposed to sign a buyer agreement with a realtor. Interestingly enough, in Virginia, since 2012, it's been statute to have buyer agreements in place in writing. That wasn't the case throughout the nation, but now nationally that has changed since the NAR settlement. So it doesn't matter who you are. I mean, I've heard a couple cases where buyers say to their realtor, I'm not really a contract kind of person. I don't like signing these things. What do you not trust me?
Right. Right. Right.
That sort of
Right.
thing. But unfortunately or fortunately, however you want to look at it, it is across the board now nationally that if a buyer wants to see a property, unless they're representing themselves, if they want representation, they do need to have something in writing. What the specific details are in writing can be negotiable. So you can negotiate how long you want to work with this realtor. If you just met this realtor for the very first time and they're asking you to sign a buyer agreement, maybe you just sign it for today's date and that's it.
Right.
Maybe it's
Just to see
specific.
that one house or something. Or are you, and
Exactly.
then can you also also in that buyer's agreement is the compensation for the agent as well? Like, can you also say, oh yeah, if you want to, if you want me to be your realtor, I, require whatever percentage compensation. Is that signed at that buyer's agreement, or
It
is that
is.
only once you go in under contract with a property?
No, you're exactly right. That fee is right there on the buyer agreement. And so, whatever that realtor puts as their fee, now, if the seller is offering more compensation than on that particular buyer agreement,
Hmm.
that buyer agent doesn't get that higher amount. And that just goes away. So it's interesting. What's in the buyer agreement is what the buyer agent is supposed to earn. And so that buyer knows from the very start. So let's say, like I just said, if the seller offers more, then the agent does not get that excess. If the seller offers less and the buyer
Then the
tries to put in their offer what they would like the seller to pay their agent and the seller refuses, that buyer can then pay the difference at settlement. I've heard of some buyers offering a little bit more in price and asking the seller to make up that difference. Things like that could be ways that's handled. Additionally, the if the seller says, no, I'm not going to pay the compensation, but I'll pay you a closing cost amount. Now that buyer can use some of their closing costs to pay the difference to their agent, whatever that may be. So I'm truly hearing both. Either when I'm representing a buyer or when I'm sitting at a table at a listing consultation, I've heard consumers doing different things. So far, I haven't heard any seller who says, I refuse to pay a buyer agent. I'm sure that's happening, but I haven't seen that myself. But I just had a call the other day with some sellers who said, I don't want any guesswork. We want to know what we're offering a buyer agent from the start. We want our calculation to be what we can hang our hat on. And we also respect that a buyer is going to want to know what we're offering. So they offered a specific, specified compensation. Now we're not allowed to publish that in the MLS or anything that the MLS feeds to. So what we have to then do is, let's say somebody makes an appointment on our listing, we can then email or text, a form that is displaying what that seller is offering.
So if I'm a buyer and I'm listed in and I'm interested in a listing, you can send me, before I even see the house, you can send me what the seller is willing to pay the buyer agent.
Yes,
Oh, wow. So this is just basically opening up a whole new negotiation process versus just it's not just the sale of the house now. Now it's the sale of the house, and then we've got now this other variable, which is what the buyer is being paid. And then how about the seller's agent? Is the seller's fee compensation a fixed rate, or is that also negotiable?
that's also negotiable.
Okay. So we just made things a little bit more complex to a
Exactly.
system that was kind of already established.
Yeah, the seller, it's always been negotiable in terms of, let's say you say to me, Scotty, I'd like to hire you to list my house. And I say, well, this is my fee. And you say, I'm not interested in paying that. Well, we could compromise, or perhaps I say, I'm sorry, I'm not willing to go to that amount. And you can say, nice meeting you,
Yeah.
interview the next person. I always tell people, just be a little cautious about having a certain amount in mind, because if that person gives you data that shows that every single time they sell a property in your neighborhood, for instance, that they can get X amount over what the seller is asking, and they're breaking records and they're really proving their worth and proving their value, well, don't get too caught up in the compensation number, because that's only one factor. I mean, if that agent can get you a higher price, that'll cover the difference of a higher, compensation
Right.
and more. So it's almost like stepping over dollars to pick up cents when you're
Right.
that concerned from the start exactly what the number is.
Right. It's just kind of like in bonusing a staff on their performance, right? If the realtor performs better and they're getting the seller more money, then the seller's agent should also be compensated in that way because they got their client more money, right? Cool. Okay, now I'm understanding. Thank you for explaining that.
Yeah,
I'm glad I've
absolutely.
got I'm glad I've got the brass tacks of it now
Hopefully
because
that wasn't too boring. I just
well,
getting in the weeds, but I think a lot of people are very curious about how this is all working, and there's so much misinformation out there. A lot of people are now scared, like, oh my gosh, I wasn't prepared to have to pay my own buyer agent. Well, you might not have to. You could pass that house up. It might be, a house that you're interested in, but if you make an offer asking for the seller to cover the buyer agent compensation and they tell you, nope, sorry, you're going to have to pay for all of that yourself, you have the right to walk away. You don't have to sign their counter.
and in general, I mean, has it historically been just 3% on each side, or is that not true? Like, is that how it used to be? And now it's just we have negotiating between, like, is typically the 6% commission split in half historically?
So I mean, definitely, I think, so again, this is my PC answer, right? Okay. So again, it was always negotiable.
Okay,
That's the
got it.
truly PC answer, okay? But
Okay,
I think the customary,
yeah.
when we're talking custom, it was either that or very similar to that in the past.
And since this NAR settlement, that's what it's called.
Yes, National Association of Realtors.
Since this settlement, have you seen a lot of with just the properties that you've listed in it and that you've sold, has it become like an issue, or is it people just been kind of like, okay, this is how it is now? Like, are people utilizing this other variable of negotiation as like a benefit to them?
Yeah, that is, gosh, I would say I haven't seen much difference so
Yeah.
far.
Okay.
As far as a seller paying a buyer agent fee, one thing I found really interesting is I think a lot of us realtors were trying to think of the logistical nightmare of, okay, my buyer has these 20 listings saved in their search, and oh my gosh, no longer will I be able to know right off the bat and have the data, clear to me what the seller is offering to pay a buyer agent. Because I was able to, 6 months ago, see that and be able to tell my buyer in advance of even seeing a property, hey, just so you know, they're only offering X, or just so you know, they're covering my fee, or whatever it was. I was able to share that from the very beginning. So I thought it was going to be a logistical nightmare of either making the calls or receiving the calls, just this barrage of calls trying to find out what the fee is, that's offered. And funny enough, agents seem like they're not even asking. And I think it's because of the fact that their buyer has the right to make an offer with a specified compensation to their agent. So I think now people are just adjusting. So for instance, like here in Virginia, I gave you the how it is for sellers, that they have those three options. From what I understand in California, for instance, there is no option. I think it was one. I have to roll back the tape. But there is no option one. You don't ever specify what you're offering a buyer agent. It's
Uh-huh.
either I'm not interested in paying the buyer's agent, or sure, I'll be willing to communicate on that. My mind is open, and let me know what you propose. So
Sure.
I think I think that was the most enlightening thing for me, is that there isn't a whole lot of upset and panic and calls, and it's not
Yeah.
a whole lot of worrying. It's just, we're going to make a good offer, and if the seller opts not to accept that offer, and it's a ridiculous counter back, then we can walk away.
And what do you think precipitated this settlement with the NAR? Do you feel like because the market was so hot and listing prices homes were selling over listing for so long, is that what maybe precipitated this settlement and now trying to give people more options as far as negotiation?
Well, it was a class action lawsuit, and it
Oh,
started apparently very small. And apparently, whomever brought the lawsuit uh, had they had just recently sold their home and paid for both agent fees, but then they purchased a home and their agent's fee was paid for. So I'm not really sure why,
Okay.
but they brought this lawsuit, and then it just really, I think the point was, I keep hearing the word transparency, that there should be more transparency about what everybody is, or I guess what buyer agents make, because we still
Hmm.
don't know what listing agents make, right? That's not really transparent to at least the buyer. It is to the seller, but I think transparency, and then the term decoupling the compensation, like you said, it was the seller was offering this fee to the listing agent, and then the listing agent would pay half generally to the buyer agent. So I think it now is decoupled, so it doesn't kind of go together anymore. You referenced the number 6%. No longer is it 6%, and then I'm going to split that. Now it's I'm paying this person this amount, and then I may consider paying this other person, what they propose.
Okay. Interesting. And is all of this, maybe I shouldn't harp on this anymore. Is all of this being paid, like, is this without or outside like the closing costs and all of the contract, or are buyers or sellers having to come out of their pocket with this compensation? Like,
This all is on the settlement statement. So literally it comes out of their proceeds. So it's another line item. So you've got,
okay,
taxes, settlement fees, HOA fees, compensation to the realtors, it's all a line item, on the settlement
okay,
statement. So fortunately it does come out of their proceeds. And oh my gosh, we are so lucky in our area that we generally do have equity.
hmm,
So that really does put us in a different position as versus what it was like when I first got into this business. Back in 2004, it was gangbusters then, but we didn't see the amount of equity in people's
yeah,
homes like we do now. We don't see the credit worthy buyers like we do now. I mean, there was the predatory lending. Hopefully, has mostly gone away. With Dodd Frank and the changes and regulations that were made as a result of the bubble bursting. So I do think we're in a better position now to handle the roller coaster that is the real estate market. I do think again that this area is we are really fortunate. Where there's not you can't go everywhere in the country and say the same thing. There are plenty of people who they sell their house, they pretty much break even after it could be decades.
wow, yeah,
So, it's we we're very fortunate.
absolutely. Okay, well, I can't forget to ask you, Scotty, about your marketing. I love how you do such an amazing job with um, just your creativity. Where do you feel like that comes from? Is that, I mean, it looks fun, and I love seeing your different listings and just the creative way you give deep, like even your just most recent listing. I'm sorry, what, the Railroad House? Is that what it was?
18344 Railroad Street in Bluemont, Virginia. It's for sale now.
Yes, go look at it. It's so adorable.
It is.
I love how you put the history, in that, and then you had the other one where the black and white one that was, I don't know, a couple months ago when you were all
Yes.
dressed up in that. How was it like? What led to that creativity? How did you decide to do that, or what inspired that?
I have to say, I get inspired by these houses. I mean, each one sort of tells a story. And, you know, especially on the two that you referenced are so not cookie cutter. They're so unique and they're just
Yeah,
both gems. I had to pay homage to each of those houses and the town itself in the second one. So yeah, gosh, you referenced the first one was a Queen Anne Victorian built in the mid 1800s in Bluemont, Virginia, and a big, beautiful old Victorian. But it was a little bit of a fixer upper,
yeah, yeah,
and it went on the market as a fixer upper. I didn't want to do that plain old, video where you just do the walkthrough through the house. I
yeah.
knew that I had to do something very interesting. So I have to throw a little shout out to Joel, the owner of Absolute Altitude. He's fantastic. And I said to him, "What do I do about this house?" I said, I have this vision and I don't know if it can be done. And I gave him this off the wall idea. And he's like, nope, that can't be done. This is Hollywood. But
Yeah.
what we could do is this. And
Yeah.
so walking through the house in black and white, and I'm in a red dress, right? He told me to
Yeah.
buy a red dress. So, and my red dress was circa 1850s inspired, right?
It was
And a
so
red
good.
parasol and but
Yeah.
yeah, and so his idea was, okay, we're going to film it in black and white, and as soon as you move across the room will turn color. And I was
Wow.
like, you are a genius. We're doing
That's
it.
so good.
So that was really neat. And it was so funny, Keith, the reactions I got about that video. Like one of my friends and colleagues said to me, "Oh my gosh, how did that model's skirt, because it was like a hoop skirt, how did that model's skirt fit up that tiny back staircase?" And I was like, "Model, you know
Uh,
it's me, right?" He's like, "What? That's yeah, so it was really, really fun, and it was neat to go through the process and then see the outcome. So, yeah,
that was awesome. That was
thank
definitely the
you.
coolest thing I've ever seen. I mean, there's all these realtors, and I feel like each one of them is trying to make, because I guess listings historically can be maybe boring, but you guys did a great job, and it made it so engaging, and I'm sure I'm guessing the house got sold, right?
It did. Yes, it got
Yeah.
sold. It got a lot of press. We were on Circa Old Homes. We were in featured in Country Living magazine.
Ugh,
So
awesome.
that was a neat one. But yes, that one got sold. We did get multiple offers eventually. It sat on the market a little while. We dropped the price. But we did end up getting it sold, and the owner was thrilled. And yeah, so that was a success story. And now we've got that other one that you referenced on Railroad Street in the same village in Bluemont.
Yeah.
And yeah, that one was a fun video as well. And again, Joel helped me come up with that idea. So I think we all, if you surround yourself with people who make you look good,
Yeah.
I think that's, it takes a village. So thank you for that compliment. And I have to say right back at you. I mean, I love watching your stuff. I love watching your Thankful Thursdays, for instance, or Tankful, Thankful
Thankful.
Thursdays.
Thankful.
Um,
Yep.
yeah, all your goodwill, and it's just fun, and it just makes your heart happy. So thank you for doing those too.
Absolutely. I'm gonna have to get Joel's info, and I won't steal him from you, but I'd love to do.
No,
I always love to see kind of what other industries are doing marketing wise. I've definitely been, I love treating our clients and everything like that, but I'm getting more interested in the marketing tactics and the marketing side of things. So I always look to other industries, and you are definitely one that stands out. So kudos to you. How
thank
do you feel like you've been able to, handle everything? Because I know I've met your daughter before, and being a mom, having this business, being, everything that comes along with that, and having a personal life, what's been the keys to your success? What daily routines, what habits do you have so that you have time to make these awesome marketing, videos for your listings, and in the same time, keeping everything going good with the family?
Yeah, well, it's not easy. It's I've learned we always talk about work-life balance. There is no balance, right?
Right,
You
right.
know, uh, but I think we all need to kind of come up with our non-negotiables. And my daughter is one of my non-negotiables.
Aw.
I do not don't mess with her, my time with her. So that's definitely one. My workouts, I try to do them every day before I'm even awake. Like literally, before I eat. I'm like,
Yeah,
what just happened? But basically, it's like don't be clear-headed enough to start thinking like, oh, let me do this work first, or let me, no, just get it done. So I try to keep my workouts, a non-negotiable. Sometimes they're short. This morning was a 20-minute Peloton.
there you
But
go.
hey, I got one in. And I just every time I've ever sacrificed time, for instance, with my daughter, or to do something I was really excited about in my personal life, I have to say, if I've ever sacrificed it and run to a last minute appointment, I've always regretted it. It's never worked out in the right way, and it's like a higher power telling me shouldn't have done that. Don't do that next time. So yeah, I just try to keep my head about me. And I have to say, having my wonderful team is huge.
Yeah.
Um, if I'm traveling, if I have something with my daughter, if it's it's just really nice to be able to lean on these wonderful women who are so happy to help out, which is like amazing. I mean, not every team member out there on different teams is like that, but mine is. So I really, really appreciate that. And I think that all helps me try to achieve as close to a possible balance as, as I can.
As as possible,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, it's I like that you brought up team. We are always investing in our team. What types of things do you feel like has enabled you to grow to such a helpful team? Like, are there certain things you look for in your when you're hiring your staff or people onto your team? Is it more of like the chemistry of how they work together or what type of skills they have? Kind of who do you look for when you're looking to bring on a new team member?
I think I'm really looking for signs that they are truly caring, not putting money first. That they have that service first kind of spirit, that they are self-motivated and work hard because real estate is definitely, you have to be a self-starter. It is not a career where you sit at a desk 9 to 5 and you know the checklist of what you have to do. It is a career that you would literally never stop. If there's never a, oh, let me close my laptop, I'm done for the day. It is never, ever
Hmm.
like that. I go to bed every night thinking of all the things I should have, all the other things I should or could have done. But I look for people who care. I think that is the utmost value that I'm seeking. I don't want to grow my team too big. I like to keep it small, intimate. I like the size that it is right now. I have to mention that my mom is now on my team at 82
Yay.
years old. She's
Wow, that's awesome.
amazing. She
Yes.
is my feistiest team member. She is the only one that talks back. Um,
Uh-oh.
but
Uh-oh.
she's a rock star. All of us are in awe of her, and she gets up every day and walks. That's her non-negotiable. She walks around River Creek where she lives.
Hmm.
And she is, she's like, what else am I going to do with my time? Sit around and play cards? No, I'm going to keep selling real estate. And so that's fun. But yeah, I just I love my team. And it's funny too. Sophie always says, Mom, you need friends. You
Oh.
you need friends. I'm like, but my my colleagues are my friends. She's like, that doesn't count, but it kind of does. I'm happy.
Well, and that goes back to your point. Like, I tell Jasmine this all the time. Like, when you take on a new client, you spend so much time with them. Like, you have to like them. There's a
100%.
there. We have clients here too that sometimes it's just not the right fit.
Yeah.
And if they've got a chronic issue, and I'm gonna have to be, you know, helping them for a 6 to 8 month period, like we want to do business with people we like and people we enjoy our time with. So I think, I mean, I don't, you can tell me, kind of what your thing is on this, but I feel like that's what makes it so rewarding is like when you find someone that you're able to help and you get along with them and they get great results, and it also makes it very rewarding for me, and maybe the same for you in your line of work as well. But like when you're able to help someone that you generally enjoy their company and you enjoy, helping them, it's a win-win for everyone.
I wholeheartedly agree. We've all had situations where we've had a client that is just wrong. And,
Yeah.
I mean, I've had people who I can truly call abusive, just verbally
Yeah.
abusive people. And, you learn that that is not good for your sanity, for your health, for your family, because you come home and your stress now spreads to other people. So I do think that is and I think your business is built like this too. I think that's one of the great things about having a mostly referral based business is that nice people know nice people,
Yeah. Exactly.
so that's been really cool. And to your point, for instance, some clients I'm working with right now, I think I said to you that I've worked with them, this will be the eighth time that I've
Yeah.
worked with them. And, we started as realtor client. And then over the years, we've become friends to the point where I went to, a baby shower. Well, let me back up. An engagement party, a wedding, a baby shower. And,
Sure. Yeah.
it's just awesome. It's
Yeah.
really, really cool. It's such a great relationship. I called up a client the other day and I was like, I miss you.
Aw.
You're with each
Yeah.
other so much during the process and then they close and it's like, you're like craving that time again. So it is really a neat situation for sure.
Wonderful. Well, I'm so happy for all your success, Scotty, and I always love seeing your creative listings. For our listeners, do you have any? We already know about the railroad listing. I'm glad you shouted that out. Do you have any other upcoming projects or, anything exciting that's coming up that you want to share with our listeners?
Well, I do have a few new listings that are coming soon, but I'm not at liberty to share them yet because of MLS rules. But
Okay.
please reference my, my YouTube and my Facebook and my Instagram, and I'll definitely be sharing more, and I'll keep you've thrown down the gauntlet. I'll keep trying to make creative content and fun stuff to keep you watching and keep you guessing.
I love it, and I'm sure others love it too. So awesome. Thank you so much for being on, Scotty. Keep up the great work. Can't wait
Thank
to
you
see you around
so
town
much.
sometime soon. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me, and what a great opportunity to sit and enjoy your company for a while. And maybe I'll have to reverse this interview and have you talk to me and answer questions for me soon.
I would love to be on. Yeah, I'm so glad you've got a channel I didn't even know, so I'd love to be on. You just let me know. We can
Okay,
do it again.
perfect, awesome.
Awesome.